For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to a very hot day here in New York. Wherever you are, I hope you're keeping cool. I understand it's hot everywhere in the country, but it's going to be even hotter here tonight because we have one of the hottest dancers around, and that's Gary Flannery. I am so thrilled that he's here tonight. It's also Book Lovers Day, and we're going to be giving away a very special book tonight, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a few moments. But I always begin every show by asking who or what are you celebrating? And I'm celebrating the world of dance. I've always loved dance, dancers, everything about that world. But full disclosure, I was born with 2 left feet. So I'm very thrilled when I get to meet dancers, when I get to experience their world. I've done a lot of work over the years with a wonderful organization here in New York that I highly recommend that you get involved with. It's called Dancers Over 40. And we can talk a little bit about that a little bit later. And you don't have to be over 40 to be a member. But in any case, tonight, it's all about Gary Flannery, and I am so thrilled. But before I bring him on, let's just get a sample of who and what he's about. Here he is. Gary, it's all about you tonight. And that concludes our show for tonight, everyone. Thank you for
so. Bye-bye.
Hello there, Gary. First of
Still
all,
have the teacup fingers, but that's
yes, thank you for being here. And I hope you don't mind my beginning the show by saying, welcome to the show, Bull.
I am the bull.
I
That's
know
right.
you are.
Bob would scream that out from another room sometimes. It's like, get the bull, get him in here.
How did that come about? How did Bob Fosse, of course, you were the Bull.
Right.
How did that name come about, and how did it stick with you?
Just work ethics. He totally enjoyed my persona in rehearsals, especially, and so he just kind of nicknamed me the Bull. He used me to demonstrate everything, usually to everyone in all rehearsals, and so he would just yell, watch the bull. Where's the bull? Get him in here or something. And sometimes it would be other people in another room doing weird steps that I didn't even know, and he'd still bring me in and show them how to do something.
Well, that's so appropriate because each day I pick a word of the day, and the word of the day is dependability. And obvious that word is so appropriate for our theme tonight. And as I mentioned, it is Book Lovers Day. And I asked you if there was a particular book that you suggested giving away tonight. And of course, you mentioned Shirley MacLaine's Dancing in the Light. And I want to tell you, first
Not
of
that
all,
he needs to sell more books or anything, but
what was that? Not that she needs to sell any more books, but
Right.
we're going to give away a book tonight. All you need to do is respond with the word dependability. I never saw Shirley MacLaine perform live, but I had tickets to see Shirley MacLaine and Frank Sinatra at Radio City Music Hall.
wow.
And the day that we were scheduled to see the show, we got a call from Radio City Music Hall that Frank Sinatra had pneumonia, and he never performed again. And it is one of the regrets of my life that I missed that performance.
So you never saw Frank live either then?
Either.
No.
And that, they were doing this tour together, of course. But there's so much to unravel here. And I want to go back.
Frank was almost as good a show as Shirley, as our show, but Frank was great. We would usually follow him into Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas with Shirley's show, and the rest is history. I mean, it was just amazing.
So, Gary, I always begin my shows with a surprise question, just for the fun of it. And I haven't even looked at this question, so I don't even know what I'm about to ask you, believe it or not. But the question is, would you rather be the star player on a losing football team or ride the bench on a winning one? Very interesting question.
I would be hard pressed to give an answer to that. I always fashioned myself, on winning teams, and so I had the liberty of actually picking and choosing many of the jobs that I worked on, and if I didn't think it was worthy, then I wouldn't even bother. So I would be on the winning team. I wouldn't be on the bench long.
Good for you. Good for you. And then the other question is, it says, we're not going to, it says take 10 minutes to identify what being a good person means to you. We're going to take an hour to talk about you being a good person, because you've given so much to this business, and this business has given a lot to you as well. What do you feel is the greatest attributes that you've given to this business? And what do you feel are the best attributes that the business have given to you? Let's start there tonight.
Well, the Bull was nicknamed because I am still a dancing machine. I was trained by Balanchine and all the greatest teachers in the history of the world of dance, at Harkness Ballet and Juilliard as well. And so I danced 8 to 10 hours a day from the time I was 12 years old till like 16, 17 years old. And so dependability, yes, and strength and determination as well. And so those were the key things. My father was a military man, and so I was brought up to sort of stay on the path and 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 yet respect everyone and my peers as well as my teachers, and that always stuck with me. And whatever I did, wherever I participated, I think people enjoyed working with me and performing with me.
If your father was a military man, did you travel a lot as a family, or did you have one home base? What was your hometown? Where did you grow up?
Philadelphia, Bucks County, outside Philadelphia. We were fortunate in that he had already fulfilled most of his military service, especially in World War II, going through most of Europe with General Patton himself. Wow. He used to drive Patton around on a Harley motorcycle.
Wow!
I guess when he wasn't riding that big white horse or something. But anyway, where was I again?
That you grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Right. And so he was then in the reserves. So really, he would just go away certain weekends and things. But we managed to stay put there, and he was just a godlike man. I mean, we had four brothers and sisters, so 5 in our family, and yet he took time, out for each of us and our activities. And for me especially, I mean, from the time I was 10, 11 years old, I would be traveling back and forth in and out of Philadelphia into dance studios, and he'd make sure that I was getting there and coming back. 11, 12 years old, I'm coming back at 9, 10 o'clock at night from dancing.
And where did you fit in as brothers and sisters? Our oldest brother, youngest. Where did you fit in?
An older brother, and then younger brothers and sisters, and so my older brother, went into the military. He didn't really want to, but he kind of partied too much and flunked out of Penn State. So he ended up going to Vietnam, and that was not pretty. But there was no way I was going in the military. So.
So how did it begin for you? And I know that you won all kinds of scholarships at a very young age. Yeah. And you also, if I'm not mistaken, you also danced with the Mummers in Philadelphia.
Yes, I did. I again was a dancing machine. From the time I was 5 years old, I was the star of the weddings and bar mitzvahs, whatever, party was going on. I usually became, one of the attractions. And so various teachers that I had were involved with Mummers. And so I participated several times in the Philadelphia Mummers Parade. And it was always just so much fun. And so I learned primarily, to dance was class, was hard work. And I did have some performing opportunities as a young man, but very few and limited. I loved the classroom, and I always remember my teachers, even at School American Ballet, Balanchine, coming by and seeing me at the bar sweating and just pouring sweat and bullets, and I'm smiling and laughing, and he'd look at me and be like, "What the hell are you smiling at?"
I love this.
Like, I love this, man. I love this. And he'd just shake his head and just walk on. Andrei Glevsky or someone, incredible. That would
Well, Gary, a lot of kids love to sing and dance, and it's a lot of fun for them. But obviously, there was a spark that you wanted something bigger than just doing it for the fun of it. There also has to be the teachers or someone that will go to your parents and say, "This kid needs to pursue this." Who were those teachers? Who were those that went to your parents and said, "He really needs to pursue this on a career path"?
No, I had several. It ended up being especially a woman in Germantown, Philadelphia, Jean Williams, and she had guys on a fast track. Walter Painter, a brilliant dancer and choreographer, was from that's my school there, and many others, and so they would come back into the studio, and especially Walter with like a blonde on one arm and a redhead on the other, and he's just back from shooting another Shirley MacLaine movie or Elvis movie or whatever, and he would teach us a little master class or something, and I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can definitely do this, and Jean especially, then got me the first scholarship to the School of American Ballet. And from there on, it was my work and decisions and listening to all the right people, including Jerome Robbins, that I would go and talk to at points, and Antony Tudor. I mean, just legends that
Absolutely.
that I would go and ask questions to,
And did you have a game plan of where you wanted to go? I mean, did you aspire at the time that you were starting out? Of course, there was Hollywood were doing big musicals. There were television spectaculars. Broadway, of course, was in its golden age and the heyday. Did you know where you wanted to go in terms of what you wanted to do as a dancer?
Yeah, not at first. I was really set in my ballet and concert ways. Right up through Balanchine, and then I worked with the Harkness Ballet, and then I got the scholarship to Juilliard, and a full ballet scholarship, and so I was still pretty intense on that as a career even, and then I started finding out that these dancers in these companies are making like pennies. I mean, it was ridiculous, what the companies were making, and the musical theater people are making a fortune. And so it's like, see all this jewelry,
No,
Okay.
I had Charlotte Crossley on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she was one of the original Harlettes. And when she heard what they were doing with Bette Midler, she thought, should I change the career path that I'm on? So that was a deciding factor in terms of how you were going to change your path. How did you turn things around for yourself?
Well, again, it kind of got turned around. I had been up in Canada some time through all those years and had worked with Le Grand Ballet in Montreal. But then this wonderful Canadian director, choreographer, Alan Lund, got a hold of me and threw me in this folk dance company, the Faux Filet, first of all, and then with Anne of Green Gables, the wonderful Canadian musical. And so I'm making, I'm one of the leads in Anne of Green Gables too, and so I'm making $600 a week in 68, 67. So, these companies are paying $90 a week. American Ballet Theater is paying $110 a week. Martha Graham's paying $90 a week. While I was at Juilliard, I was sneaking over and taking Graham classes, which I wasn't supposed to be doing because I was a ballet scholarship. And so with Bertram Ross, who I just adored.
I love Bertram. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. And so, I'm in there taking classes for free. Nobody charged me anything. I just walk into class, and they were glad to see a guy anyway. And so Martha herself, would come in and watch. And one day she pulled me out of class and she's like, "You're mine." I was like, I don't know, $90 a week for all that rolling around on the floor. I don't know, And then Anne of Green Gables decided to go on this world tour, okay, while I was at Juilliard, and offered me $2,000 a week. This is 1970. Okay, so I was like, bye. Decision made. Actually, I talked to Jerome Robbins for a while about it, and I said, well, my concert dance career, I mean, all these years and everything. He's like, did you ever see West Side Story? I go, oh, do you know who you're talking to here or something?
Do you know who you're talking to?
Right. Don't be a fool. Take the money and run, So I left Juilliard, much to Martha Hill's dismay. And my father's dismay as well. He wanted me to go to college and do all of that. But, at that point I was making more than he was. And so,
wow.
Yeah, touring the world. And it was pretty much on from there.
In the world of dance, was it any? This may seem like an odd question to ask, but was it any different than pursuing a career in the world of acting? Do you have an agent? Do you have a manager? How are you finding work in that world?
Mm-hmm. For most people, it's not that different. But in the age that I grew up and worked in, there weren't a whole lot of my type around that was so well trained. And all for quite a while I was at Juilliard, even I was taking private voice lessons. And so I was keeping up with my vocal work and knew that was really the path that I wanted to go. I had already seen Bob Fosse's work. I saw the original Sweet Charity with Gwen Verdon and snuck into the theater several times to see that show. And so I knew, two things: that I was going to go more into a musical theater career, and secondly, that I was going to work with Bob Fosse someday. And so that became a real sort of challenge. And for me, I auditioned once in a while, but then I just started having choreographers and directors and producers calling me up.
Well, I was just about to ask you. Last night I had Kurt Peterson on the show, and I asked him, because if you believe, I asked him, and I'm going to ask you the same question, if you believe in manifestation, because he really manifested that he wanted to do West Side Story. And even though he could not hit that B flat up there, he opened, in a Broadway revival of West Side Story.
He was brilliant. I saw that.
And you saw it. And you also just said that you knew that you were going to work with Bob Fosse. Your mind was made up, and that was the path that you were going to go on. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that you manifested that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe in beliefs, and fate has its own wicked ways sometimes, but yet if you follow the path and work hard enough, then I think your goals can be achieved. And for me, Fosse became one of them. I auditioned for Pippin. It's kind of a funny story. I'll make it fairly brief.
No, take your time.
But I had ended up back in New York, and I never got to see Pippin, but they had an open call for one male dancer for the Broadway production of Pippin. And so I went to the audition. There were 1,000 guys there. It was literally the cattle call. I mean, just I mean, everybody and their mother wanted to be in this show now. And
What
so,
does that do for you psychologically when you
oh,
show
it's great. I bring it on. I mean,
up? Good for you.
I am the ultimate competitor, and God help you if you ever had to compete against me, you know. And I always train my students that way as well. When you're so well versed and trained that there's nothing that they can't show you that you haven't done 100 times over, then you know you take that confidence into the audition. And I had all kinds of wild tricks and things that I would do too. And I, you know, first of all, I mean, all the guys would be in white and black, and you know, I'd be in purple. I'd be in a purple unitard with matching purple shoes. So it was like, you know, and if the audition was at 8 in the morning, okay, I was there at 6 a.m. Okay, so guess what? I had number one. I had number one, okay, on my shirt. So now I'm number one, and I'm front and center, you know, where I planted myself, you know, for the audition, and I never had a choreographer, you know, director come in and not say like, "Wow, look at you, man," you know, look at you. I was like, "Yeah, well, wait till you see me dance," you know. These guys can just go home. It's over.
Good for you.
Huh.
I love this.
Yeah, but for Bob, so now of course, you know, I'm auditioning for Fosse, so we get cut down pretty quickly, and it ends up I'm singing Promises, Promises. So I start singing it, and he stops me almost right away. He's out in the house, you know, audience, and he stops and he's like, "Okay, this is an adult show, right? We're good." So anyway, he says, "I want you to sing that song again, but I want you to grab and play with yourself while you're doing it." I stood there. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I beg your pardon." And he stood up and he's like, "Did you not hear what I said? I want you to start that song again and play with yourself." I was like, "Okay." You know, I had no idea what the show was or what the show was about at that point. So I'm just like, okay. So he says 5, 6, and here I go, and I'm going, "Promises, promises, this is where those promises." And I'm rolling around on the floor, and I'm like kicking my legs, and I'm doing little butt, you know, pumps and things, and so he started roaring out in the audience, and he said, "Okay, that's enough." So so while I didn't get the part because it was actually a understudy, it was just a swing that they were looking for the Broadway company.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment? And forgive me, but was he testing you to see how far you would go?
Well, so what happens is that he had a part in mind for me right away, which was the noble, you know, which was Gene Foote's part with the big hat and the big cape, and all he did was play with himself through the whole show. You know, he was the nobleman. So, and right in the beginning, especially, you know, you're sort of taunting the audience, and right down by the footlights, and I mean, we were saying absurd, really awful things to these people, and they're sitting there going like, Henry, what's he talking about?" And so that's what Bob pulled me aside, and he said, "Listen, you know, I don't want you to swing the show. I'm going to put this first touring company together, and I want you to play this part of this noble." And he said, I want you to meet me at the theater tonight and watch the show with me, and you'll see, you know, because I told him, I said, "I never saw the show. I don't know what the hell noble you're talking about." So I went and saw the show with him, and then figured out, yeah, that was why he asked me to do that, and it was pretty funny. But that was the one and only audition I ever actually did for Bob.
And that was the beginning of a long relationship.
So
And
Yep.
of course, all that jazz, and recently the Bob Fosse, Gwen Verdon miniseries. Has anyone ever captured him on uh, in these depictions, these
Uh,
biopics?
no, no, not even close. You know, I mean, the closest you're going to come, of course, is all that jazz. I mean, which is as much a bio about him
Mhm.
as you could possibly get. And so we're living this story every day that Bob is filming, and it was about him
Mhm.
and all the things that happened to him. But no, the miniseries I did not care um, for a lot of reasons, especially the guy. It was like, the first thing I said when I saw this picture of him, with her looking over his shoulder and stuff, and I said, which they didn't really like me saying on Facebook. I said, funny, I don't remember Bob Fosse ever having that blank look on his face.
Mm.
Oh, well, I heard it after that. I was like, oh, guess I shouldn't have said that, but it was true. That Bob Bob was was so brilliant, and while he sat there, you could just see the mind just like clicking away all the time, and and the focus was just so incredible, and he drilled that into Roy Scheider, which was absolutely amazing, because the guy never danced a day in his life, and he came in there, accepting this role to play Bob Fosse himself, and
It's
oh
just an
God,
amazing performance.
it is. He should have won the award. Fosse should have won all the friggin' awards for that movie, except it got a little bit too bizarre for a lot of people, I think. Um,
Well, I
but
mean, you did do a lot of film and television. Was it an easy transition for you to go from stage work to film and television?
sure, absolutely. Again, it was discipline, and um, uh, you just it was a lot slower pace, and I hated the idea that some of the stuff I was doing was going to get cut. I mean, I actually signed a featured principal contract for all that jazz. I had 28 lines in the movie. I had little scenes with Roy Scheider, and it all got cut. You know, I ended up saying my name is Gary, and that was like it. In the erotica number, but the male adagio that we did in that number is just truly one of the most spectacular things I ever did, and one of the most spectacular things that what's his name now? He's the producer from Columbia, Daniel Melnick, and so Melnick was around our filming quite often, watching the dailies, and so when we shot the male adagio and those dance belts and stuff, um, he came up to me the next morning and he said, "Son, I've never seen anything like that on film in my life." He's like, "You look like a Greek god come to life, and
Mm.
just really absolutely incredible, what Bob is doing here." And I was like, "Yeah, yes, sir, that's right."
You mentioned something earlier I want to go back to. I want to know when that transition period happened, when you started getting the calls, when you had that name where people started reaching out to you saying, "We want you for this project." There comes a point in a person's life, if you're lucky enough, such as you've been, where they start reaching out to you for the projects. When
Mhm.
did that begin to happen for you?
I'm pretty much right there with Bob. While I did the first tour of Pippin, and then I came back, and he put me into the Broadway company of Pippin. And so while I was there doing that, Shirley MacLaine came into town, and it's another long story, but I ended up
Take your
auditioning.
time. I love these stories.
I auditioned for her for this Gypsy in My Soul special, TV special, and I was the last one taken because they had none of my friends. I was out of town doing a gig up in Boston with 17 magazine, And none of my friends, told me about this Shirley MacLaine gig coming into town. And so I came in late, finishing this gig up in Boston. Okay, came in, got into my bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, 6 a.m. There's a call from a friend of mine, Adam Gradness, rest in peace. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Adam, I just friggin' laid down. Okay, I just got back." He's like, "Listen, Shirley MacLaine wants to see you. We're uptown right now." I was like, "You're out of your freaking mind. What are you talking about?" And he said, "No, really, grab your stuff and get up to the NBC studios on 57th Street. They want to see you now." I was like, "Sure. Okay, I'll kill you. I will kill you if you're joking." So I grabbed my stuff, run up to 57th Street, go into the front, and the security is like, "Oh, yes, Mr. Flannery. Okay, they're waiting for you upstairs on the second floor, 208 or whatever." So I was like, "Wow, okay." And it's still only like 7 in the morning. So I go up to room 208. I open the door. Oh, my God. I mean, everybody in freaking New York City, is in this room. Everyone from Shirley to, Lucille Ball, Liza Minnelli, Bob Fosse, and all these dancers, Fred Ebb, Cy Coleman.
A lot of people aspiring to be in the business. You're mentioning.
They were pretty much the stars of the business. And
yes, of course.
So now they decide that I'm going to dance and audition in front of everybody right then and there. And Tony Sharmley, rest his soul.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Gave me this little combination right away to do, and the hustle. So I picked it up and step kick, step pull, turn, chasse. I was like, really, this is a joke. So I did it, and then the second time I did it by myself, and everybody was screaming and yelling, and so I finished it perfect, and Shirley came over to me. She's like, "Who taught you that number?" And I was like, "That little man over there is like, step, turn, step, push, and turn, back." And she's like, "God, I've never seen anybody, pick up like that before. You're hired. You're done." So I got the gig, and then out of all the dancers, Adam Grammitz and I were chosen to do this tour for her. And I was still doing Pippin at the time on Broadway. And so she stole me away. She stole me away from Bob, and he almost never forgave her, because I think he knew and had big plans for me. And
well, Leroy Reams, the same thing happened with him. Juliet Prowse took him out of Sweet Charity.
Yep. Oh yeah, those girls where they had some pull, and they had great shows. Juliet's show was just magnificent as well as Anne Margaret's, and so Shirley's tour was only supposed to be 3 months, but it was a month in Monte Carlo, a month in London, and a month in Paris. So it's like, fine, okay, twist my arm, I'll go, and I'm making a fortune, and so by the time we finished halfway through Monte Carlo, I was a guest of Princess Grace, and I'm in a suite in the Hotel de Paris for a month. That was like insane. So they had already booked like a year and a half onto this tour, and I'm like, okay, I'm never going to see my New York apartment again. I'm never going to see Bob Fosse again, whatever. But I call it the Dream Tour. There's never been anything like it in the history of the world. We broke 38 box office records around the world, and performed everywhere from Kennedy Center Opera House to Sydney Opera House, just blowing the doors off of these shows. Shirley's making $500,000 a week.
Gary, I went on YouTube and I watched those specials. I watched the orchestrations, the choreography, the everything that went into those productions. Do you think that we will ever see those types of productions ever again?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't say never. We never say never, but yet It was a very special time, and we had some of the greatest. I mean, Bob Fosse hired Flannery, cinematographer and stuff, to work on all that jazz. You know, Shirley's act was built by Fred Evans Coleman.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you know, it's hard to match that kind of talent, and especially, you know, incorporating it into one show. And our show, Shirley's show, was magnificent. I'm sorry you didn't get to see us at the Palace. Oh
Oh my,
God!
well,
My
I mean,
parents came up to the
Gypsy in my
Palace.
soul. I remember watching it the night it aired. You know, I was just glued to the TV. It was such an incredible special, and I
Well,
miss those
I
specials.
felt,
We don't have anything like that anymore.
yeah, no, there really isn't, and it's sad. It's a shame. You know, we've lost some wonderful Alan Johnson, Tony Stevens, and you know that newer generation, Michael Peters and stuff. So you know, you had the older generation, and they really gave us some wonderful work and a path, and then you had a lot of these wonderful younger choreographers, as I just mentioned, and then so many of them passed away so soon,
I
and
know, I know.
we just lost them, and I think we lost our future with them.
We
And
certainly did.
yeah,
I want to ask you because when I think about you, just mentioned Cy Coleman and Kander and Ebb and all of these incredible talents. To me, it's all about the collaboration and all of these talents coming together to create this. And you know, and again, going back to my word of the day, dependability, and the people that you've been able to depend on in your career and the collaborative process. Um, who are those people that you feel as you look back on your career, and your career is still going strong?
mhm.
You're a director, you're a producer, you're a choreographer, all these hats you still wear. Out of all the hats that you've worn in this business, two-part question. Which of those hats do you feel that you wear the most comfortably? And who are the people along the way that you've been able to depend on the most in this business?
It was those two, Bob Fosse and Shirley MacLaine. And I only found out recently from Shirley's longtime company manager and agent, um, that Bob was constantly calling her in the middle of our tour saying, I need him. I want him to do this. I want this. He wanted me to do Eliza with the Z special. He wanted me to do Chicago. He wanted me to do Dancin. I was the first one that he ever even called about to do Dancin on Broadway. And she's like, no, you can't have. Well, with Shirley, you talk about dependability. It ended up only being two of us, two guys. We had no understudies or standbys. So the book of Shirley's, Dancing in the Light, explains this weird circumstance that happened, where I showed up at one of their performances 5 years after I had left her, and Mark, that was hired to replace me, ended up breaking his ankle, shattering his leg, and I'm there for this second show of a matinee day. So he breaks it at the end of the first show. He's gone. They put a full leg cast on him. Shirley is an hour late coming back to the theater because it had been daylight savings or whatever the day before. So now she's been rushed into the theater at 5 minutes to curtain. Okay. By this point, I'm backstage and they're starting to put costumes on me and everything, and all these Bob Mackie costumes that Mackie himself had hand fit on me myself. And so Shirley runs in. They're like, hi, oh God, it's great to see you. She's like, are you going on? It's like, Shirley. Oh my God.
No, I'm just wearing the
I
costumes.
was like, 5 minutes, 5 years. I said, not even I can do this. I said, there's 6 numbers in this show that I haven't done a long time. There's 5 new numbers. So what am I going to do? Just go out there and jump around like a nut? I said, I'll watch the whole show tonight and then go home, grab my stuff, come back and learn everything in the morning, and I'll go on tomorrow night. But I can't go out there tonight. I mean, not even I can do this. And so Shirley explains that, what happened. And even in the book, she says, and when I saw Gary, I knew everything was going to be okay. It was going to be all right. And so there's the dependability. We never missed a show, the two of us, Larry Vickers and myself. We never missed a show in 2.5 years with her.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. I've got a question from my friend Danielle, and she said she's curious, did Shirley have any of you do any energy practices behind the scenes before or after the shows?
Very rarely. She controlled the media, and they could have cared less about us, pretty much. It was Shirley's act, and all pretty much was billed as a one-woman show.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. It was the one-woman show. So who in the hell were we anyway?
I think what she means is that were there any rituals that you did before or after the show, in preparation for the show?
Oh, well, not so much. Shirley really had a very tight sort of, we carried a mini orchestra around with us, and then we would pick up a full symphony orchestra in the city that we would go to.
Mm-hmm.
But other than sound checks and things to make sure, all of the tech was running correctly, we never really did much of anything. At one point, I partnered Shirley in the one number, and we just do this little do-si-do, and then she turns out, and I grab her arm and pull her back in, Well, she would get dramatic, during this little twist sometime, and would like hide her hand and like bury her hand in her side or something. So I couldn't get her hand. So I'd have to grab her whole body by the waist and like pull her back in and stuff. Oh, and then that would be it. Then Michael Flowers, the company manager, would say, Shirley wants to practice the hand. I was like, not the hand, Michael, not the hand. Shirley wants to practice the hand. And I partnered Baryshnikov's, I trained Baryshnikov's partners, everyone from Gelsey Kirkland to this beautiful little girl at Harkness, and now Shirley wants to practice the hand.
Wow. And here you, I just...
Mark, who replaced me, is up in the front there.
Yeah.
In this, but that's one of the Fosse numbers that I created for the show, which was really exciting.
And then I love this photograph here. And you're actually going to give away an autographed copy of this tonight, in addition to the book that we're giving away. And I'm going to bring this up on screen. I'm going to remove this here. I've got some wind down questions to ask you, just to give everyone a fun sense of you as we wind down tonight. I want you to come back. I want you to come back once a week. I could go on and on and on with you. I just love you, Gary.
Yeah,
you're just so much fun to have here. The first question I'm going to ask you is, what was the easiest choice that you ever made in your career?
Working with Bob Fosse.
Wow.
It became pretty much the ultimate learning experience. I mean, this is the greatest director and choreographer in the history of show business, and so it was a pretty easy decision to continue to work with him. And I only left because I decided to get married and raise a family.
Wow.
But he didn't leave even then. They kept calling me and calling. They did this Pippin, video. You got to come and do the Pippin video for us. I was like, no, stop calling me.
If you were to think of a through line through your career, what would that through line be?
dancing machine.
Dancing machine, the bull.
The bull, the dancing machine. I just, uh, you know, I didn't even get enough of dancing and rehearsals enough. As you saw, I ended up being in my school track hall of fame.
Mhm.
So I used to go out and run 5 to 10 miles, like through Griffith Park and up and down mountains, just for the heck of it every day,
Wow.
just so that I would maintain my strength and my boldness.
Wow.
And I would do like TV specials and things where people would be sitting around and like working with Tony Stevens, a great friend of mine, doing Mary Tyler Moore show or whatever, and we would be doing nothing, and so I would be doing a little class myself over on the side, and Tony would come in and say, "Listen, I got you a studio next door that you can go and work out in because you're upsetting the other dancers." I was like,
Oh my God.
oh my God. Yeah. So, so I didn't work a whole lot in LA. New York was really my home and it's still where I love to go in and teach. And
Mm.
the last class I taught in New York before the COVID thing went down, I taught at Broadway Dance Center and I had 69 students pack in to learn steam heat. Taught to me
Wow.
by Bob Fosse himself, that we did in Shirley MacLaine show. And so that was like amazing.
Wow. What are your truths in this business?
Um, I think dependability and honesty and just good old fashioned hard work. I mean, I think that will get you over most humps um, and just be sweet, just be pleasant and sweet about it all.
Thank you for saying that. That's great. And besides Fosse and MacLaine, who is the person most sensitive to your needs in this business? Or who was the person most sensitive to your needs in this business?
Um, well, after I left the business, I mean, it became my wife, certainly, and my family.
Yes.
But up to then, it was really just my own independence. I mean, I really was kind of a loner in a lot of ways. And once I knew the path that I was on, I stuck with it, and I didn't need very much encouragement or help from anyone. I just knew what I was supposed to be doing, and just did it.
And besides dance, do you take time out for yourself just to get away from everything for Gary time?
Every day, every day. I mean, I have 4 wonderful grandsons
Oh,
here.
good for you.
Oh my God! So
Are any of them dancers?
no, no. My young grandson from my daughter, she he's a hockey star already, and so I take him to a lot of his hockey practices and games and things. And no, I didn't push either of my kids into it. They're both wonderful careers on their own, and the same for the grandkids. I mean, I'd love to see these guys dance because the opportunities are still there, but far be it from me.
Good for you. I asked you a moment ago about what are your truths. Have there been any lies in this business that you want to dispel?
Um, Not really. I think those that know me and worked with me realize the the truth about me and my work and my goodness, and I followed that to the letter, and I think that it, it it helped a lot of younger people that I ended up working with uh, in a lot of ways. Um, I got in trouble once in a while from saying what I thought about things, but to management, but it was really just minor issues usually.
Okay. And this is my last question tonight. How do you nip it in the bud when you're having a bad day?
Drink heavily.
Good for you. Okay, we're going to give away a
No,
copy of.
I really don't. But anyway, no.
Well, whatever works.
Right.
We're going to dancing in the light, and of course, you. Thank you for dancing in the light tonight with me. And
Such a pleasure.
if Shirley, Natasha, thank you. I will
Wow.
put you in touch with each other so you can send her an autographed picture.
Wonderful.
And I will send you a copy of the book, Natasha. So thank you. And if you are still in touch with Shirley, thank her for me for all the gifts that she's given to the world and that she continues to give.
You continue. Amazing. Yeah.
And I just absolutely thank her. And Gary, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the gifts that you've given to the world, and you've given me an incredible gift tonight. Full disclosure, everyone, Gary reached out to me last week and said he'd love to come on the show. And that meant the world to me. So thank you, Gary, for reaching out to me. You truly epitomize dependability. And I understand how you got the name Bull. I think I'm going to go and watch all that jazz again tonight and celebrate you all over again. I want to thank everybody who showed up tonight. Gary, I'm going to give you the final word in just a moment.
Sure.
I want to thank everybody who showed up tonight. I know that I can speak for Gary when I say this. We don't take it lightly when you show up. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for being dependable tonight and always with me. I always end every show, as you all know, by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Tonight, it's Book Lovers Day. So the book, Dancing in the Light, or any of Shirley's books, are all available on Amazon.com. Go to Amazon.com and order 2 copies of Dancing in the Light. Keep one for yourself and send one to the 5th friend that pops up on Facebook. And then reach out to that 5th friend with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. As my dear friend, Sean Moniger always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, may we all be dancing in the light together. And if you're going to go out in that boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So, Gary, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message you want to leave everyone with tonight. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. Thank you, and you're welcome here anytime. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. What a wonderful opportunity. And I just want to finish by saying that I'm about to witness All That Jazz for the first time on a large screen this Sunday here in Tampa. They're having a showing, and I'm going to go and talk about the film afterwards and probably do a few dance steps. But it's very exciting. I ended up having no time to see the film. I do have copies of the Blu-ray versions that I've seen on my little home computer and what have you, but this will actually be the first time I see it on a big screen, and it's very exciting. Bob Fosse was a genius, and I'm so proud and so lucky to have worked with him. And thank you all for having me, for listening to me, and for working with this wonderful Richard Skipper, and God bless him and all that he does and continues. Amen. Thank you so much. Adios.